So my husband's rich, like filthy rich, and I use his money. But that's not why I'm here for you guys today. I'm here to tell you he was married before he married me, and he has a son from that wedding. Well, it turns out that my rich husband is a cheater, and now I'm going to tell you who he cheated on me with: my sister. That's right. And now I'm going to use his son from his previous marriage to get some sort of revenge, and it's going to be really messy. Never in my wildest of dreams had I imagined that I'd be here writing about my sister and my husband. But their recent betrayals brought me to this. Hey guys, I'm Margaret, and my husband's cheating on me with my own sister. If you're disgusted by reading that, think about me, who almost walked in on them when they were doing the deed in my house. For the last 5 years, I've had it all. A loving husband, a beautiful home, a perfect marriage. I had the perfect life, or at least I thought so. But then reality crashed down on me like an absolute ton of bricks. Let me give you guys a little bit of the background. I met Robert, my husband, about 7 years ago. I was in my late 20s working as a librarian in our small town. Robert was a charming businessman, well known and respected by everyone. Our paths crossed one day at a local charity event, and from that moment on, I was captivated by the charisma and warmth. He was a man of high caliber, which I guess is understandable given his success. I distinctly remember my first interaction with him. He was called to give a speech and has misquoted Shakespeare. To be honest, as this world goes, is to be one man picked out of 1,000. Before I could stop myself, I blurted out, "It's 10. It was really embarrassing, and everybody looked at me as if suddenly 10 hands had just sprouted out of my head. But he just smiled and asked me what I meant, and I clarified, sorry. The quote was, "To be honest, as the world goes, is to be one man picked out of 10,000, not 1,000. Right after the main event, Robert approached me and asked me for a drink. How could I have refused such a brilliant man? It was like a lifetime opportunity for me, so I said yes. We hit it off instantly and spent the whole evening talking. By the time he dropped me home, I was in awe of that man. Soon after, we started dating, and it wasn't long before we fell deeply in love. Robert was my rock, my confidant, my everything. We shared dreams of a future together, of building a family and growing old side by side. Well, 2 years later, we got married. The marriage itself was one of a kind, and life after that was no less than a fairy tale. However, everything changed when I discovered a terrible secret that turned my world upside down. Robert was cheating on me. But that was that he was cheating on me with my own sister, Susan. Susan and I have always been close growing up. We did everything together. She was my best friend, and when I married Robert, I was thrilled that my sister and my husband got along so well. I never imagined that their closeness would turn into something so deceitful. Actually, Susan was recently widowed. Her husband was a bit older, and by old, I mean in her late 70s. He too was a rich businessman and a friend of Robert's father. He'd recently started staying sick most of the time, despite the numerous doctor checkups. So his death did not really come as a surprise to anyone, yet it still was sad. I never understood why Susan had married him, but she always said that he made her happy in a way nobody ever had, and I contented myself with it. After her husband died, I invited her over to stay with us for a while so that she would not be alone in such a difficult time. I guess that was my first mistake, or maybe trusting her was my first mistake altogether. I distinctly remember the day as if it was yesterday. I'd come back early from a literally club, a meeting that I own. Robert wasn't supposed to be at home until later, so I decided to head directly to my sister's room just to check up on her. As I approached my sister's door, I heard muffled voices of something clearly very passionate. Though I got curious, I decided it's best if I didn't interfere in her business. But as I turned to return, I heard Robert's voice and I froze. It can't be him. But I know my husband's voice very, very well. Long story short, it was him. My husband and my sister hooked up behind my back in my own house, and I felt the ground had been pulled out from underneath me. My mind raced, trying to understand how this could even be happening. How could Robert betray me like this? How could Susan, my own sister, be involved? I sat on the bed, overwhelmed with emotions. I felt anger, hurt, and a deep sense of betrayal. I replayed moments in my mind, trying to see if there were signs I had missed. There were times when Robert and Susan would share a private joke, or when they seemed unusually close, but I'd always thought it was just a sign of their friendly relationship. Now I realized it was something much more sinister. That night I couldn't sleep. I laid awake, staring at the ceiling, feeling my world crumble around me. By morning, all my pain had turned into strong desire for revenge. I knew I needed to confront them, but I also knew I had to be smart about it. I didn't want a heated argument where they could deny everything. I wanted them to feel the weight of their actions, and the next morning I found Robert sleeping beside me and instantly felt disgusted. Though still unclear of what to do, I was very clear from the next step. I needed to get Susan out of the house. She'd been staying with us for over a month, and I let her in my house out of kindness after her husband died, but received such betrayal in return. I couldn't stand the thought of having her under the same roof, knowing what she had done, but I could not let her know that I found out about the affair. Oh no, not just yet. I took a deep breath and composed myself. I walked downstairs where Susan was in the living room, casually flipping through a magazine. I plastered a fake smile upon my face and told her that I just received a call from our parents. Our mother was not feeling very well and they needed help back home. It was a believable excuse, one that would not raise suspicion. Susan looked concerned and immediately started packing her things. Well, as Susan left, I felt a small sense of relief. At least now I would not have to see her face every day while I figured out what to do next. I still had Robert to deal with, and I needed to be careful. He was a cunning man. I mean, he must be to cheat on me and act like nothing happened. I knew that if I confronted him without solid proof and a well-thought-out plan, he would deny everything and twist the situation to his advantage. I'm so angry. I know I want to get back at them. I know I want to make them pay and suffer the same pain that I'm going through. I just don't know how to do it. I feel lost and unsure of what to do next, so I'm asking for help. What would you do if you were in my position? How would you make sure that they understand the depth of their betrayal? I'm looking for advice and suggestions on how to handle it. I need a plan that will let them know they can't get away with this without feeling the consequences. Your thoughts and ideas would mean a lot to me as I navigate through this. Update number 1. Hey guys, I'm back for an update. Well, I can't even begin to thank you for the amount of support you've shown me in the past 3 weeks. I'm really saddened to learn how many of you related to my story. Are all men like this? First, they show you the world and offer you their love for an eternity, and once you build a home with them, they'll throw it all away and cheat on you. Anyways, the reason I'm writing this update is first, of course, I have no other outlet as of now, and second, I have things to share. After I found out that Robert, my husband, had been cheating on me with my own sister, Susan, my heart shattered into a million pieces. I wanted nothing more than to confront them both and ask them how they could do it to me. But I knew that confronting them immediately and yelling and screaming would not give me the justice I deserved. Instead, I decided to get back at them in a way they would never forget. First, I needed to learn the whole truth. So I started snooping around and luckily found Robert's phone unlocked one day when he was in the shower. I went to his messages and directly went to the conversation saved as Susan. What I found there made my blood run cold. The messages were intimate, the messages were explicit. Clearly not the kind of conversation you would have with your sister-in-law. It spoke of secret meetups, shared memories and plans for the future even. I scrolled up hoping it was nothing more than a misunderstanding. But the further back I went, the more evident it became that this was absolutely no mistake. Robert had been cheating on me with my own sister, Susan, for more than 2 years. I felt like I've been punched in the gut, and every loving moment, every kind word he had said to me over the past 2 years felt like a lie. Tears welled up in my eyes, but I knew I had to stay composed. I took screenshot after screenshot of the messages and sent them to my own email, needing to preserve this proof for whatever came next. I spent the rest of the day in a haze, trying to figure out my next steps. I knew that I couldn't do this alone. I needed help, and I needed someone who had as much reason to despise Robert as I did. That's when I thought of James. Let me introduce James to you guys. See, James is Robert's estranged son from his first marriage. Yes, I was Robert's second wife, and I didn't reveal it earlier because it did not seem relevant to the story until now. James's mother, Robert's wife, died giving birth to James. James had always been kind to me, but I knew that he harbored a deep resentment towards his father. I'm a little unclear about the details, but I know they had a huge disagreement and fell out years ago, and James has been living overseas since, and I knew if anyone would be willing to help me, it was him. So I reached out to James, explaining everything that transpired. His shock and anger mirrored my own, and he agreed to help me. He'll arrive here by tomorrow evening, and I know it may be selfish to use a 20-year-old boy against his father, but I'm desperate for revenge. I want to make them pay no matter what the cost. I mean, what do you guys think? Am I seriously just taking it too far? Update number 2. I'm convinced that there's no humanity left in this world. Cheating with your sister's husband is one thing, but planning to get your sister divorced and marrying him instead is just evil on a different level. Yes, this is exactly what my dear sister hopes to do. It's been 2 weeks since James arrived, and the moment he walked in, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. If there was another human who hated Robert as much as me, it was him. I sat him down and poured out the whole story to James, and I showed him the messages between Robert and Susan detailing their affair and their plans. James empathized with me, but I knew he could not care less who his father marries next. He was just happy to have a chance to make his father suffer, and honestly, it worked just right for me. Together, we started brainstorming. The first step was to gather as much evidence as possible. We needed to make sure that when we exposed them, there would be no way of them to deny it. We decided to keep an eye on Robert and Susan, watching their every move and collecting any incriminating information we could find. James had been interning as a white hacker in a reputed company. You know, a white hacker meaning he doesn't do anything crooked. So hacking both Robert and Susan's devices was no big deal for him, even though that was crooked. Over the next few days, James and I worked tirelessly. We searched through Robert and Susan's emails, text messages, and even social media accounts. One evening, while going through some of Susan's messages, we stumbled upon something even more shocking. It turned out that Susan had plans of her own. She wasn't just having an affair with Robert, she was planning to frame me in a false case of infidelity. Her goal was to get me divorced from Robert so she could marry him herself and just take over my place in his life. Based on what I read in her conversation with one of her friends, she had it all planned out to the T. After discovering the full extent of Robert and Susan's betrayal, James and I knew that we had to take action. We needed to come up with a plan that would expose their affair publicly without directly implicating ourselves. This way, we could ensure they faced the consequences of their actions. It wasn't like I could make him lose money, considering how rich he is, and as much as it hurts, I think that he would be okay losing me as well. So I planned to hit right where it would hurt the most, targeting his public image, you see. When targeting a man of such caliber as Robert, I know subtly it was the key to go. Our first step was to subtly start to spread all these rumors within the social circle, hinting at the infidelity without revealing any concrete evidence. We started by attending various social events, from charity fundraisers to casual gatherings with friends. At each event, we could carefully and discreetly drop hints about the affair. We knew that gossip spread quickly in our town, and once the seed of doubt was planted, it would grow on its own. The thing about rich society is, no matter how much they seem close, no one really has another person's good at heart. So, at one charity event, I casually mentioned to a close friend that I've been feeling uneasy about Robert's late nights and secretive behavior. I hinted that there might be another woman involved, without naming Susan directly, so I divulged to my rich friend, knowing well enough how far she'll go to gossip about it despite her promise of staying tight-lipped. James played his part as well. At a golf outing with some of Robert's business associates, he subtly dropped the bomb that Robert might not be as faithful as he seemed. He mentioned seeing Robert with a woman who wasn't me, and let the rest go to their image of the imagination. The rumors have started to take on a life of their own. I know soon enough the whole town will be buzzing with scandalous rumors about the charming billionaire and philanthropist. I know that the rumors alone can't do much harm to someone with as high as a reputation as old Robert, but I'm adamant about ruining him. I'll keep you guys updated. Update number 3, I'm back with another update. Oh my goodness. Hey guys, well, I'm back. But first I need to address to those who think I don't seem sad enough that I've lost my husband and seem to be enjoying the whole take revenge thing. I've not been able to sleep fully at night. Yeah, that's right. Since I first learned that Robert and my Susan betrayed me. I cry almost all the time, and it's just not something that I do over here in my updates. And as for me enjoying ruining them, yes, you're correct. I am enjoying that part, and I look forward to relishing in my revenge as I uncover their truth in front of everyone and ruin them entirely. So much so that they're even ashamed to show their faces again. Do you even know what it's like to read romantic conversations between your older sister and husband? To know that the sister you looked up to plans on destroying your marriage without any guilt or remorse. To almost walk in on your husband and sister, doing that in your house? No, you haven't, right? That's what I've been going through for the past couple of months, so yes, I'm enjoying ruining both of them and plan on doing so again. Anyways, let's continue from where I left off. James and I, we were determined to make Robert and Susan pay for their betrayal. We had already started spreading rumors, but we knew that we needed more concrete evidence to make our case undeniable. That's when James has this idea. Remember how I came across Susan's conversation with one of her friends discussing how she plans on getting me divorced by Robert? Well, she planned to execute her little plan with the help of a small actor. She paid him to get such pictures that could be used as proof that I had been cheating on Robert. Well, James suggested we find the person Susan had paid to act like I was cheating on Robert with. It would convince him to switch sides and, we might be able to get the proof that we needed. So, James used his contacts to track down that man. Peter was a small-time actor, desperate enough for a gig, for any money, and willing to do almost anything for a paycheck. Susan had paid him to fabricate a story about my infidelity, hoping to use it against me. When James and I met with Peter, we knew that we had to be careful. We couldn't let on that we were onto Susan's schemes. James offered Peter double what Susan had paid him if he would spy on Susan and provide us with evidence of her and Robert's affair, along with any details of her plan to frame me. Peter, seeing an opportunity to make more money, agreed without hesitation. So, over the next few weeks, Peter kept a close eye on Susan and without hesitation. He provided us with enough evidence of their infidelity. He even offered us a recording of his convo with Susan in which Susan's instructing him on how to trick me and get the evidence of the fakes. That's, me pointing out that I've been unfaithful to Robert. Once we had all the evidence, we knew it was time for our next step. We strategically leaked a few solid pieces of evidence of Robert and Susan's infidelity to key individuals. We selected influential journalists, prominent socialites in the area, people who had the power to spread the story like wildfire. We sent anonymous packages containing the evidence, making sure there was no way to trace it back to us. The town was buzzing soon with gossip about Robert and Susan. People couldn't stop talking about the affair. It was clear that their perfect image were beginning to crumble. It hasn't been so easy. We met resistance from Robert's PR team, who desperately tried to scramble to calm the rumor. However, the media rarely let such scandalous news leave its clutches. The best part was that my revenge was far, far, far from over. It was now time for the final strike. There was this huge gala approaching that Robert himself was organizing. Ironically, the theme of it was traditional family values. Give me a break. There couldn't have been a better opportunity. The night of the gala arrived and everything was exactly as I wanted. It was one of the most prestigious events of the year and everybody who mattered in our social circle was there. After mingling with everybody for a bit, making sure that everyone had arrived, I took the stage. I thanked everyone for coming and said that I had a little surprise for the two most important people in my life. Robert looked surprised but pleased. If only I could somehow show you guys how the pleased look on Robert's face turned to that of a horror scene. As the scene behind started playing a compilation of all the proof of Robert and Susan's infidelity. My husband Robert and my sister Susan have been having an affair for over 2 years, and I have proof of it. And I believe it's time everybody knows the truth, I said, and I dropped the bomb. Needless to say, The whisper started immediately spreading like wildfire through the ballroom, and I glanced at Robert and Susan. They were standing frozen in shock, their faces redder than a tomato. They tried to speak, but to deny it, but the proof was right there, irrefutable. Robert and Susan tried to leave quietly, but they were stopped by friends and family, demanding an explanation. Their perfect image was absolutely shattered, and they had no one to blame but themselves. James and I watched from a distance, and satisfied with our plan working out, we eventually left. The truth was out, and Robert and Susan would face the consequences of their actions, and there was nothing more left for me to do. Not right then and there, anyways. Final updates. Hey guys, this is it. It's been a year since I last updated, and I'm in a much better place now, and honestly, I even forgot about this post. I recently came across some of the comments asking what happened next and decided that since you guys have been with me throughout the journey, you do deserve some closure. Last, I updated you guys about the night of the gala, how I uncovered Robert and Susan's truth in front of everyone and left. The very next morning, I contacted a reputable divorce lawyer and filed for a divorce. I explained everything to him: Robert's infidelity, the public humiliation, Susan's malicious plan. The lawyer assured me that given the circumstances and evidence that I obviously had, I stood a strong chance of getting a favorable settlement. Robert was served divorce papers a few days later, and he tried to contact me, begging for a private conversation, but I refused. I had nothing more to say. His actions spoke louder than any words ever could. I was clear that he was scared about losing his wealth and status, and that made me even more determined to go through with it. Eventually, the day of the final settlement, it arrived. You know, the judge, he went through and reviewed all the evidence, and he made his decision. Yep, because Robert had cheated on me, I was awarded a substantial portion of his assets. I got a large sum of money, enough to secure my financial future, and I also got to keep the house. This was a huge relief. It felt like justice for all the pain and humiliation Robert had caused me. News of the divorce settlement spread like fire in our social circle. People were astonished at the outcome, and many were secretly pleased to see Robert and Susan get what they deserved. Their reputation is safe to say it's in tatters, and they were cast out of the very society that they once flaunted their supposed perfect lives to. What a story. Let's check out these comments. The first one is very negative. At least that's what people are saying. Seriously. This whole thing sounds like a dramatic soap opera. Yeah, I get it. Robert and Susan did you wrong. Your update just screams, look at me. I'm the victim turned hero. It's like you're basking in their downfall rather than genuinely moving on. Sure, you got a big settlement and you get to keep the house, but let's be real. Flaunting their ruined reputation and talking about how everyone shunned them feels pretty vindictive. Instead of focusing on what you've gained from the downfall, maybe reflect a bit on how you ended up in this mess in the first place. Good luck with your literary group, or whatever, but maybe tone down on the self-congratulations a bit. Guys, what do you think about that? Drop it in our comment section. Let's talk about the story down below, and if you're new here, go ahead and subscribe. I'll see you tomorrow, and of course remember, it's cool to be kind. Peace.